Welcome to the Floyd County Police Department. My name is Chris Fincher. I'm the Public Information Officer for the Police Department. I am joined today by Captain Ron Hunton.
So, like Chris said, I'm Ron Hunton. I've been with the department about 18 years. In that time, I've done just about everything. Currently, I am the commander for the Traffic Enforcement Unit. We focus on traffic enforcement and education in Floyd County. That's preventative measures such as just visibility, things of that nature, and also enforcement as far as writing tickets and also investigating serious injury accidents and fatal accidents.
And that's why we're here today, is to talk about the number of accidents that we've had in our county. We are drawing tragically close to being one of the top 10 counties in the state for fatalities. So we'll get a little more into that in just a little bit. Philip, tell us about yourself. You do some training at the hospital, right?
Yes, I do. I'm the Training and Education Coordinator for Redmond EMS. This is my 38th year in EMS, 36 serving as a paramedic. So we have about 100 employees at Redmond, and that's my responsibility, is to offer them training and education.
Right. And part of that is trauma, obviously, because as EMS, you were the first ones to get there. You were the first ones to recognize and start to work on problems that you see at a crash, right?
That's correct. We offer a pre-hospital trauma life support course every quarter, and that's been our mission. That's actually a requirement for all of our EMTs as well as paramedics.
I got you. All right. So, Ron, let's talk about the crashes and the situation that we currently have in Floyd County. The police department has identified 3 of the primary reasons why people crash. Can you talk to us about what those are?
Sure. So one of those is aggressive driving. Now, it's more than just it kind of covers different things. Aggressive driving looks at things like speeding, obviously going too fast over the posted speed limit. Also things like following too close and improper lane change. So a lot of times you know, all of those things do kind of tie together as far as speed related. If you're following too close, you're obviously going too fast because you're right on the bumper of the person in front of you. And the same thing with the aggressive lane change. You see people that are on like a 4-lane or even a 2-lane. They come flying up behind somebody that's maybe driving slower or driving the speed limit. And they get right up on their back bumper, and at the first opportunity they get, they make that sudden lane change over into another lane of travel and to complete the overtake of the vehicle in front of them. And it's maneuvers like that tend to cause some issues as far as crashes go. We had one recently that was the case. It was an improper lane change, ended up causing a fatality accident. Another one of those is distracted driving, and that's, we can be distracted by a lot of things. The big thing, I guess, is always the technology, the cell phone, whether it's texting and driving, or even talking on the phone and driving, even using Bluetooth. You have to be careful what kind of conversation you're having when you're going down the road. If it's a heated conversation or if it's just something that you're really involved in, you tend to forget where you are and forget what you're doing. So that can be a hazard as well. And things like pets in the car, eating while you're going down the road could be a distraction, lots of different things. And then the last one is impaired driving. Of course, that's driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol. But it's not just drugs and alcohol. It covers things too, like prescription medication, things of that nature that people are taking that impairs them, that maybe they don't realize it at first. So it's not just the illegal drugs or alcohol that leads people to be impaired.
There's really a misunderstanding of what impaired driving is, especially with folks who are prescribed medication. They feel like that they're capable of driving, but like you said, there comes a point. The warning label says don't operate heavy machinery, but we get accustomed to living our life with that medication, and we don't realize how much it really does affect us. But these factors go into play when it comes to reaction time. Philip, I would imagine in the time that you have been a medic, you've responded to a number of crashes. What is it that when you respond to that crash, what is it you're looking for and what is it you see?
Usually when we're dispatched to a MVC or a motor vehicle crash, when we start pulling up, we're looking for things that could be a safety hazard to us first, and we want to park to not be in the traffic, to be in a safe area. when we're eyeballing that scene, we're usually looking for where was my energy delivered in this crash, because the energy is going to be transferred, and it's going to be transferred to the individual that's in the vehicle. So we're looking for the vehicles that took the most impact and absorbed that energy.
So let's talk about energy and that sort of thing. That really comes down to physics, right?
It does.
You've got the mass of the vehicle, you've got the speed that is going, plus you've got the two vehicles coming together. So that's what creates the energy, right?
Correct. And there's a formula it's called kinetic energy, and kinetic energy is 1/2 mass times velocity squared. So it all ties back to the velocity.
Right.
Velocity means is a huge factor in making the energy numbers just go up incredibly.
Right. So what a lot of people don't know, and probably even a lot of police officers, you pull up on a wreck and you see the damage that's done to the car, but it goes beyond the car, right? There's also there are several different crashes that are occurring within that compartment and within the human body, right?
That's correct. There's actually 3 phases of a collision, and the first one is the impact itself, the event. So let's say a vehicle's traveling 60 miles an hour. That energy has to be absorbed by that vehicle when it collides with another object, a tree, whatever. So that's the first phase. The occupant in that vehicle is still traveling at 60 miles an hour, even though the vehicle has crashed into something. So the body is still moving at 60 miles an hour, and if people are restrained the way they should be by the law, that 60 miles an hour, that energy is going to be taken on by the seat belts. But even though they may have a seat belt on, their internal organs are still moving at 60 miles an hour too, and they're going to collide within the body, and that's the third phase of the event. If a person chooses to not be restrained, then that second event's going to be horrible, because that's where they hit the dash, they hit the steering wheel, they hit the A post, and then their body is physically going to absorb that energy.
Yeah. And in some tragic instances, we have people who are ejected from the vehicle, and those are several other crashes that have occurred, right?
Correct. The statistics say that if a person chooses to be unrestrained and then are ejected from that vehicle, they're 6 times more likely to die.
Yeah. So when you get there, your time is very limited. You have what you call the golden hour. Can you tell us what that is?
That's a principle that's applied to where we try to get that person to the most appropriate hospital to handle their situation. So, and that clock starts at the moment of impact, and then we have a dispatch delay, then we have a arrival delay because we have to go to the scene depending on where that's at. So the clock is running the entire time. Yeah. Maybe even 10, 12 minutes could go by before we actually make contact with a person, and that's 12 minutes lost.
Yeah.
And then we have to do our assessment, our treatment, and then make the decision, where does this person need to go to?
There's been some times where family has been on the scene, I'm sure, and they've been shaken, but you have to remain focused on the injury at hand. What kind of condition are the families in usually whenever they encounter that?
Usually that's a bad event when they do arrive on scene, because our EMTs and medics, we've been trained and conditioned to handle these type of situations, even though they're stressful to us. But when a family member or friends arrive on the scene, they're not conditioned to deal with this type of situation. So they're seeing carnage, they're seeing the wreck, they know they have a loved one in that vehicle or in the back of the ambulance, and that can cause a lot of emotional trauma for them for the rest of their life.
Right. Captain Hutton, what are we doing at the police department to try to remedy and to fix this problem?
So one thing we've started doing is just trying to get the word out as much as possible, and just pushing information out to the public, adding it to the website, using social media platforms, things of that nature, to just let people know what's going on with these crashes, what are the contributing factors, what are the main roadways, things to be aware of, and then with that just is the education arm of it. Just, this is what's going on, this is how we need to prevent that. It's just reminding people not to be on the phone while they're driving, reminding people to wear their seat belts and use car seats properly, things of that nature. Another part of it is just being just the visibility factor, being out there, being visible as officers in those areas where we see a lot of crashes, places like Alabama Highway, Martha Berry Highway, places where we're having a lot of crashes. Just try to be visible. And then the next part would be the enforcement part. If we see a violation, whether it's they're issued a citation or given a warning, just dependent upon the officer's discretion in the situation. But just that actually taking action and stopping someone and saying, hey, you're going too fast, you're on your phone, you're changing lanes improperly, and then to looking for those impaired drivers and taking action where need be once they're located.
Yeah. So certainly we're looking for ways to try to mitigate and to lower the crash numbers, because right now we're only mid-year. We're looking at about summertime of 2021. So
Right.
we want to remind people what those three things are again. And what are those, Ron?
So aggressive driving, following too close, speeding, improper lane changes, things like that. Distracted driving, obviously been on your phone or distracted by anything else in your car, whether it be a pet. Sometimes our kids can be distracting us while we're driving, so we have to be mindful of that. Things of that nature that are distracting you while you're going down the road. And just driving impaired. We don't want people to drive impaired. And in today's world with technology, it's so much easier to get a driver, to get a designated driver, to get someone to take you home. Things like Uber, Lyft, the ride-sharing services. If you're going to go out and you know you're going to be partaking in that kind of activity, make a plan before you go, and have that plan in place. Know who you're going to call, what ride-share service you're going to use, things of that nature. But have that plan in place. Don't take the chance on trying to drive home, because it's not just your life that you're putting at risk. It's the life of everybody else on the road.
You're right. So we want everybody to be safe. We're going to wrap up this episode, and we hope that everybody has a safe summer of 2021. Thank you all for joining us today.